Welcome to Grimm's Frightmares. I'm your host, Joshua D. Maley. The loss of a loved one is always devastating, but the loss of a young child is incomprehensible. Even just 2 short centuries ago, mortality rates for children were much higher, and we didn't have the technology or medicine available to treat many illnesses that we can today. The tragic reality is that many children were fortunate to survive childhood unscathed, and some did not. Tonight's story comes to us from Savannah, Georgia, and the famous Bonaventure Cemetery. Upon that sacred ground, young Gracie Watson was laid to rest by her heartbroken parents. The site is well known, and people come from all over to see Gracie's amazing memorial and leave her toys and gifts. But one young man will learn what happens when you touch Gracie's toys. I grew up in Richmond Hill, Georgia, which is a suburb of Savannah. Anyone who's grown up around Savannah knows it's considered to be a pretty haunted city. Some people think it's the most haunted city in the South. I don't know about that. I was always kind of a wannabe believer. I was the guy that loved ghost stories and who wanted to buy it so much, but it was all just a little bit too out there. Like, man, it would be so cool if it were true and there were really ghosts, and maybe it would even offer some hope that there's more after this. But the moment I start to take it seriously, my brain goes, nah, bro, it ain't real. So, a few years back, when I was still in school, a few friends of mine and I decided to take one of those ghost tours through the Bonaventure Cemetery. I guess it's a pretty famous place, even outside of Savannah, from some old movie or something by the Dirty Harry guy. I don't know, I'd never seen it. I'd been to Bonaventure a few times during the day, not with a tour, just walking around and checking things out. It's a beautiful place, all these live oaks with the moss growing off of them. Makes for a very unique and very cool visual. I remember hearing about some little girl that was buried there with this really elaborate grave, and I don't know, she was supposed to do something. I can't remember what it was. Crying sounds, maybe. I never found her on my own, though. I mean, the place is pretty big. So I thought, hey, maybe I'll finally get to see her. Like I said, I went with a few friends. There was Noah, who is the one that had the idea in the first place. Isaac, who's kind of a horror movie buff and just one of those guys that knows way too many little details about way too many different things. And then there was Jen, who thought of herself as the token tomboy chick in our otherwise all-guy crew. So the tour gathered in the lot right on Bonaventure Road. I was hoping for a cute tour guide that I could maybe flirt with, but in the end it ended up being some guy named Alex. I mean, he was cool, don't get me wrong, and he really knew his stuff. We passed by this big old mausoleum-looking thing that they called Gaston's tomb. It really hit me then just how creepy the whole thing was. I mean, it was a dark night, like pitch black. What little bit of a moon there was constantly being hidden behind dark clouds. Even though it was late summer in Savannah, the whole cemetery felt chilly, like abnormally chilly. Like it shouldn't have been this chilly. Even though I was with a decent-sized group, and even though 3 of them were my friends, I still felt really isolated and alone. It was strange being there, like I was intruding on something and I shouldn't have been. The lampposts in the cemetery cast an eerie light all around, and the chill in the air combined with the moisture produced a slow, low-rolling fog. Even Isaac said it looked like something out of a Romero zombie movie. I really couldn't argue with that. The stones and monuments looked so much creepier in the dark. We walked slowly among them, these huge eyeless statues looking right at us as we passed by them. We passed by one memorial that looked like a typical, if really, really large, cross marker. Sitting at the base of it was a woman, perfectly still, completely unmoving. I went closer to her and found it was another statue, built as part of the grave marker. She stared blankly ahead with those creepy, expressionless eyes. The name on the memorial read, Corinne Elliott Lawton. I remember thinking, thanks for the coronary, Miss Lawton. My heart felt like it was going to smash through my ribcage. What was I thinking coming out here at night? I guess I was thinking, we'll be with a group, it won't be so scary. Yeah, right. Alex showed us a bunch of different graves, mainly famous people. Some were really old, like Edward Telfair, who was the first governor of Georgia. He was entombed in what almost looked like a small hut, surrounded by a black iron fence. We saw the simple marker of an actress named Edith Chapman. She used to be a big star in those old black and white silent movies. Her grave was just a flat stone with barely legible words carved into it. We saw the tombs of John Mercer, who I guess was a singer back in the 70s, but he came from a long line of military people too. His great-grandfather, Confederate general named Hugh Mercer, was also buried there. The entire plot was elaborate. There was a huge stone with the family name and individual graves for the individual family members. Some of them were like upright tombstones. Some of them were flat markers. John's was a long, flat stone that was buried in the ground. Looked almost like a vault. There was even a bench with his name on it and his accomplishments, and what looked like a little sketch carved into stone with his autograph. It was impressive. It probably cost more money than I'll ever make in a lifetime. All of these memorials, and the hundreds of others that surrounded us, were beautiful. Old, well-made, and sad. Lonely. Even though there were hundreds of stones and markers and statues and everything else, each one felt isolated. Kind of like how I felt isolated amongst the people in the group. I guess maybe it was because I knew in my head that under the ground, it was just them. Just that person in their own little plot, their own little box, unaware that their loved ones were so close by. Unaware of anything at all, I guess. I started feeling kind of bummed and more than a little creeped out by the time we finally got to the memorial I was hoping to see. Little Gracie Watson. According to Alex, Gracie was a really popular little girl. She was the daughter of W.J. Watson, who managed a hotel nearby called the Pulaski. Now, Pulaski's not there anymore, but it used to be a big deal back in its day, and Gracie was very popular with the guests there. I mean, why not? She was a cute little kid who did cute little things, singing, dancing, putting on shows for guests, things like that. I have a cousin that does stuff like that, so I can kind of see why she was so well liked. But in 1889, when she was 6 years old, she caught pneumonia and died right before Easter. Her family was devastated. So they hired an artist to create a life-sized, true-to-life statue of Gracie based on a picture. And when I first laid eyes on this statue, it freaked me out. I mean, I'd seen a lot of statues that night, obviously, but Gracie's was almost otherworldly. It looked so real. You could see the little dimples in her chubby cheeks as she sat there staring at all of us with those blank stone eyes. And it's strange to say, but it felt like, even though it was a statue, it seemed like she was watching us. It made me real uncomfortable. So I focused my attention down below on the ground surrounding her grave. Gracie's memorial had an iron fence on the front, and it was surrounded on the other three sides by plants and shrubs and things, so it wasn't really possible to get to the stone, but at the base of the stone were toys. Weather-worn toys that had obviously been there for a while. There were some on the outside of the fence too, but these ones looked newer and there weren't as many of them. Alex told us that people come from all over to leave Gracie toys because they felt bad for her. So I guess her parents were so upset when she died that they gave up their lives down in Savannah and went back up north. They left Gracie all alone. So people left her toys to kind of symbolically ease her solitude. Isaac, being Isaac, asked if anyone ever took the toys. Alex got real quiet. "I don't think Gracie would like that very much," he said. The way he said it gave me chills. We continued the tour then, moving on from Gracie to some of the other memorials around her. After a few minutes, I noticed Isaac had fallen behind. I glanced around but didn't see him anywhere, and my heart sank. I knew Isaac. He was up to something. I told Noah and Jen I'd be right back and then ran off to find him. I caught up to him about halfway back towards Gracie's memorial, wearing an insufferable smirk on his face. "What did you do?" I asked him. He smiled and produced a small, ratty-looking teddy bear. My heart leapt in my chest. "Tell me you didn't take that from Gracie." "I wanted a souvenir," he said. "That's low. Stealing from a dead girl?" Isaac glared at me. "What do you care? What's she going to do, come take it back?" He pushed past me to go back towards the group, and I was more than ready to give him an earful on what he had done. But then we heard it. A soft cry. A little girl's cry. Our gazes met, and we both had the same thought. No way. We rushed back to Gracie's memorial. The sobbing got louder and louder the closer we approached. I was scared to even look at the statue. The cries still seemed distant, as if they were coming from somewhere else, but they were definitely coming from within the memorial fence. "What is that?" I asked. "It's a trick," Isaac said. It has to be. It's a recording or something." I looked up at the sad, lonely statue of Gracie, and my feet were rooted to the ground. I swear to you, I saw blood running down the statue's face. Gracie was crying tears of blood. My heart faltered as I pointed to the statue. Isaac paled. "They're fake. They have to be fake." A rush of wind filled the air, and the sobbing turned more desperate and sorrowful. It seemed now to come from all around us, as if the wind had picked up Gracie's cries and carried them to every corner of the cemetery. Acting on instinct, I grabbed the bear from Isaac's hand and threw it over the fence. It landed near the base of Gracie's memorial. "Hey, that was mine!" "No, it was hers, and you were stealing it." I turned to the statue, completely unsure if what I had done made a difference. I'm sorry," I told her. "I'm so sorry. Please don't cry." The wind slowed. It eventually stopped. As it faded, so too did the sobbing. The night was quiet once more, with just a gentle breeze disturbing the live oaks. I glanced up again at the statue's face. Tears were gone. There was no trace of them, no streaks, no trail, no hint of blood anywhere. "No way," Isaac said next to me. "No way." "You saw it though, right?" He nodded. "I saw it. I'm sorry, kid. Sorry." He ran off. I looked one last time upon Gracie's statue, as if to make sure that there really were no bloody tears. "I'm sorry too," I said. Be a good girl, I guess?" Maybe it was the light or my terrified imagination, but I swear the statue of Gracie Watson seemed to smile. I ran. Didn't look back. Never went back. Once was enough to see Gracie and her tears. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Grimm's Frightmares. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the story, and don't forget to ring the bell to ensure you get all of our latest updates. You can check us out on other social media too, just follow the links below. Check back next week for our Halloween spooktacular event. Until then, stay scary, my friends.